Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Clark, Senior Manager of Strategic Communications and Employee Engagement at TE Connectivity. I'm pleased to be hosting today's Google Hangout to kick off our celebration of Discovery Engineers Week. Throughout the week, TE will be showcasing the creativity of our engineering industry and highlighting the important role that engineers have in changing the world. In fact, TE is home to more than 7,000 engineers working in a variety of industries and applications, and as a leader in connectivity, and sensors. TE believes that innovation is best achieved when teams collaborate on building solutions that make things work better. So each day at TE Connectivity, our 7,000 engineers work closely with our customers to develop new ideas for solving complex connectivity challenges. Another important facet of that collaboration is the interaction between the engineer and the technician, such as model makers, prototype builders, etc. It's the partnership between the engineer and the technician that truly makes innovation a reality. So how does this collaboration work? And what is the industry outlook for our technicians and our engineers? In fact, recent studies cite that over the next 10 years, there will be a need for approximately 3.5 million technicians. But due to a training and skills gap, more than 2 million of those jobs will go unfulfilled. So today I'm joined by technicians and engineers to discuss the engineering and technician partnership and also talk a little bit about that gap and what the implications are on our industry. So with me today, and I'll just ask them to wave as I state their name, is Karen Benjamin, Quality Engineer, Vincent Reydams, Manufacturing Development Engineer, Rob Stauffer, Manufacturing Technician, and John McBride, Model Maker. Additionally, we're pleased to have a very special guest join us from Washington, D.C., Gardner Carrick, who's Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the National Association of Manufacturers. And he's going to talk a lot about those numbers that I cited in terms of the skills gap. With that, I'm going to ask the participants here to just do a brief introduction of themselves and what they do. And I'll ask Kimberly and Vincent to share a little bit about how they work with the technician. So I'll first start with Rob over on my right.
My name is Rob Stauffer, manufacturing technician. I try to work with the engineering team on their special requests on the floor to try to give the customer what they want, and I'm sort of their eyes when they're not around on the floor. So if I see problems, I try to work with them as much as possible to correct any situations that occur.
Great, thanks.
Hello, I'm John McBride. I'm a model maker and a 3D printer technician. Engineering comes down and asks questions about type of materials we should use for different projects in the 3D printing area, etc., stuff like that.
Great. And Karen?
I'm Karen Benjamin. I'm a quality engineer. I have sort of three basic sections of my job. One is providing some direction during initial concept and development of a product. And then I do data analysis and experiments during the development of a product or a manufacturing process. And the third thing I work a little bit in is sort of strategic development of the actual processes we use as a company to make sure that we develop the right product at the right time in the right way.
Hi, I'm Vincent Reydams, a manufacturing development engineer. Work very closely with our technicians to help build processes for some of the latest connectors that come down our development pipeline. Work closely with the plants to make sure we have a process that's sound for long-term high-volume manufacturing.
Great, thanks. So wondering, Vincent and Karen, if you can talk just for a minute about that interaction you have with the technician. So when you have, there's an engineering need, maybe you hear from a customer, a new part or something, what's that interface with the technician and how does it go from kind of that initial idea all the way to maybe them producing a 3D model or an actual product, if you can highlight it for us?
Let me give an example. So one example would be if there is a particular need and I will brainstorm on that in whatever way we do that and go to the designer or a technician to help explain what the concept is and get their input also. They'll start to create a 3D model and then we'll work together to tweak that model until it contains the components or whatever shape we decide. I might do a certain amount of tolerance analysis or give some direction on specific dimensions or changes that we want. And then once those prints are done, they'll go to technical people to help figure out either choose materials or build the product.
Okay.
Yeah, I think from my side, the experience is very similar to Karen's. We'll have a new connector that comes on board. We'll need tooling designed to make that connector assemble correctly. So work with our designers to get that model. We'll concept with them. We'll work with them. A lot of the technicians we have here at TE have years of experience, so are very familiar with what we're looking for. We can always build and learn, again, new concepts based on the connectors we have. From that design, then we flow into procurement of the materials we need to assemble. Then they'll assemble the tooling with Rob is a key guy there and help us out assemble the tooling, condition it so that it's making the parts the way we want them to make them. Then we roll into low volume manufacturing state, and then we can transition to the plants from there. So very instrumental each step of the process, and we couldn't do without them.
Yeah, I was going to just add the other people out there that would count would be the quality technicians.
Okay.
And the auditors or inspectors also,
Okay.
which are also eyes and ears during the manufacturing process.
Great. So it sounds like your technicians, I mean, they're throughout the entire process, and their interaction with you is really critical to bringing forth the new products or alterations in product design, et cetera. So, which is great to hear. So that, future innovation, as important as it is, might be challenged by the fact that we face a decline in the number of trained technicians that are entering into the industry, such as ours and other leading manufacturers. And to talk a little bit about some of that is, I mentioned Gardner Herrick, who's joined us from DC, and I'll turn it over to Gardner to talk a little bit about some of the studies and challenges facing the industry.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure to join this Hangout today. As you said, my name is Gardner Herrick. I'm with the National Association of Manufacturers. And my job here, part of my job, is to really do the market research around what are the issues and factors that are impacting manufacturing across the United States. So one of the areas of particular concern to us is workforce. And we've spent the last 5 or 6 years really doing a series of studies trying to get a grasp on what is the state of the manufacturing workforce and what are the issues that are impacting it. And what we discovered in our most recent study with Deloitte was that due to the growth that we've been experiencing in manufacturing and due to the really just beginning and just ramping up baby boomer retirements, we're looking at something like 3.5 million jobs going to be open in manufacturing in the next 10 years. And given the way we've been and the rate we've been replacing those over the previous 5 years, if that were to continue over the next 10 years, we'd be looking at something like a 2 million job shortfall or 2 million worker shortfall. So that's obviously pretty significant, and we need to really do a number of things to recruit and train individuals to come into the sector. So how did we get here? When you look across the 2000s, manufacturing was really shedding workers through much of that decade. Skills gap and recruitment were not issues that were top of mind for most companies. But right around the turn of the 2010s, manufacturing really turned the corner and began to hire individuals and hire them aggressively. And we've seen 5 consecutive years of job growth after 10 plus years of job decline. So I don't believe that the industry as a whole or individual companies were prepared for that level of hiring and that level of competition amongst companies to hire individuals. So we had really allowed the pipeline of workers to atrophy, to shrink over a previous generation practically. So now we're in the position of trying to scramble and refill that pipeline. So there are really 2 key things to do if you're thinking about filling a pipeline. And number 1 is really a recruiting function. How do you get primarily young people, but also individuals that are changing careers interested in manufacturing? A few of the studies that we've done have really identified 2 key areas that we would want to focus in. And the first one was done with a group called ERCA, the Educational Research Council of America, and they go out and survey 80,000 students to find out what they think about some things, and primarily high school students. And those high school students told ERCA that by a wide majority, something like 65% of them said that they make their decisions for careers based on things that things that are interesting to them and things that they experience, versus 10% from their parents and something like 3% from guidance counselors, which tells you how important they are. So we've got students saying, I need to experience something and to really potentially make it a career choice for me. Then secondly, we do a public perception survey with Deloitte that goes out and asks 1,000 Americans what they think about manufacturing. And what we discovered on that was that manufacturing for the millennial generation was dead last in terms of industries that they are considering their career as a career choice. But we were able to dig a little deeper into the numbers and discover that those individuals that self-identify as being familiar with manufacturing, in other words, they know what today's manufacturing floor looks like, were more than twice as likely to either pursue a career in manufacturing or to recommend a career in manufacturing to their friends or their children. So on the one hand, we've got this need to get students experiencing manufacturing. And on the other, we've got proof that says once they know what manufacturing is about, they're much more likely to consider a career in it, because we've been really pushing against a 40 or 50 year negative perception about manufacturing careers being dirty and dangerous and undesirable, and all the things that you get when you picture Detroit or Pittsburgh in the 40s and 50s. So really showing potential new employees what manufacturing looks like is really important. And one program that NAM has been sponsoring that I think is particularly pertinent to where you guys are located is called Dream It, Do It. And Dream It, Do It is kind of a loose network of organizations that have been working to really make manufacturing more interesting to young people. And our Pennsylvania group has been sponsoring a video competition. So they pair up middle school students, 8th graders, with companies to create a video called What's So Cool About Manufacturing. So I'm actually going to be in the Lehigh Valley tomorrow night for the awards competition. They had, I believe, 25 middle schools paired up with 25 companies. This is the 3rd year that they've done it. And actually in Chester County, they're doing it right now. They were able to expand it from Lehigh into Chester. And I believe the Pittsburgh competition awards were last week. So it's a good way to get young people, to get 8th graders, right, 14-year-olds, right as they're kind of thinking about what they want to do, expose them to what manufacturing is, show them what you make and how you make it and the cool technologies that you can use. So I thought that was a very clever approach to getting young people exposed to manufacturing. And then once you've got them hooked, there's the question of training. How do you get them the right skill set to be successful in manufacturing? And 50 years ago, you could walk out of high school down to the local mill and get a job because it was primarily unskilled or semi-skilled labor. These days, you're talking about working with pretty significant machinery and programming, operating, and maintaining those machines. So where do you learn that skill set? I believe one of the gentlemen behind you has an associate degree in mechatronics. Is that correct? So that's a skill set that's really the integration of electrical and mechanical, electronics and controls technology, and it's really the new wave of skills in manufacturing. And Pennsylvania has also done a pretty good job across their community college network of offering those degrees, both or those skill sets, both in a certificate environment and a degree environment. So NAM's been working with colleges really around the country, trying to improve those skill sets or improve the training to enable individuals to get the skill sets that are really required. So we've been working long and hard on this. You often hear NAM as being one of the big Washington, D.C. business associations, but we've got a group here that really spends a lot of time out in the field trying to bring solutions to the manufacturing sector. So I'm happy to join you today. I'm looking forward to coming to Pennsylvania tomorrow and seeing these videos about what's so cool about manufacturing.
Thank Gardner. Gardner, appreciate that overview. And video contest sounds really interesting. I hope that gets up on the social site so people can see it more widely. So if it does, please send us the links.
One thing to mention on that is that they sort of had a regional competition about voting for the most successful. And last year they had something like 125,000 votes on YouTube for those videos. So they really took it as kind of a school pride thing and marketed it around the region and said, come vote for ours. So it was really a great way to engage not just the students, but the entire region and use the YouTube platform as a way to do it. So I thought that was clever.
Great. Well, Rob and John, I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit and ask, share a little bit about how long you've been with TE. And maybe if you could talk about some of the more recent changes relative to your roles as technicians, some of the training you mentioned 3D printing. Talk a little bit about some of the newer things that you're learning and how that's changed.
I've been with TE for 25 years, and I went through, I worked in the model shop, and that way with the 3D printing coming along, I'm getting more involved with that, with the different technologies of 3D printing, metal printing, FDM, SLA, Projet.
I've been with the company for 28 years. And since I've started with the company back years ago, I've changed myself as far as my career when I first started to where I'm at currently today. The technology that the engineers are coming out with and the machinery that they're designing is taking the company in different directions to where it'll benefit the company as a whole and also the industry. So it's intriguing to see what they come out with, work with what they have, and once that gets out to the floor, it's also intriguing to training other employees, depending on where the machine is going, just so they understand how the machine runs and make it the parts that it's required for the customer. So it's an ongoing challenge. It's the way the industry is going, and it's only a positive way to take the industry today is to keep up with today's technology and move forward.
Great. So Gardner, wondering just back to you for a minute, as Rob and John shared some of the newer things they're learning and changes in the industry. Can you talk a little bit about, when you engage young people around